Beautiful. Now, if you'd be so kind, can anyone give me a couple of topics for today? What is it? What is it? One more time. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Today we're going to focus on Bigfoot. Just kidding. It's like, why ask then? So relationships are one of the themes. Relationship, twin souls, patience. So that's one of the themes obviously going on. And I want to blend these ideas that you guys shared. So that's why it won't be on just one topic, because then it would be only taking one of many things you guys shared. Letting go, acceptance, the other things you guys shared. All of these topics, we've addressed, but you've heard about and you've read about over time. I mean, these are all really topics you could say is under one umbrella called the spiritual path. There's other words for it, but self-help, personal improvement, whatever you want to name the umbrella, all of these topics fit under that. I personally don't subscribe to taking one topic and being only into one topic, because they're all going to come in. Somebody kind of, they're like some fundamental religion, and they think, well, I'm going to dabble a little. I'm going to start getting counseling. It doesn't end there. As soon as you start doing counseling, the next thing you know, your counselor had you doing breath work. Breath work brought up symbols. Now you're doing inner child stuff. Then inner child stuff brings up past life memories. Now you're doing past life regression. It happens. And that's why some people are scared of the spiritual path. They're like, oh no, I had a friend. They wrote, they read one book, and next thing I knew, they had a library of self-help. And now they every morning you see them out on the lawn, doing pranayama, breathing, the sun salutation, and don't be afraid. It's the spiritual path. It's all beautiful, and it all has its place. Your focus could be relationships, but next thing you know, you're looking into fearlessness, courage. Next thing you know, you're like buying goddess gowns, which is really strange if it's for guys. But you're buying goddess gowns and crystal jewelry, and pendants, and it's beautiful. But if you only do it as a novel thing, thinking that collecting the books and crystals are helping you, it's horizontal. So technically, there's a group of people that are sleeping humans. They're afraid of waking up. They could have all their reasons. Well, my mother said, and they can have all these stories as to why not to wake up. But underneath it, it's all one word. What? Fear. Right. That's why A Course in Miracles teaches us there's only love and fear. Fear is just a concept, like a maybe. Fear isn't a real thing. It's an opinion. So that means there's really only love. And the fear that there isn't love. But since there is, the fear now is gone. There really is only love as soon as people get over being afraid. And again, they have all their variations. Well, I'm afraid because a friend of mine got into this and their family abandoned them. Good. That's probably a good thing. But if you don't want that to happen, now it becomes scary for you to grow. Because part of growth means letting go of attachments. And some of those attachments, especially if you're addicted to them, it becomes an inconvenient thing to have to let go of whatever it happens to be. But they're addictions. So we've all heard of the spiritual path. There's sleeping humans, but then they think they're not on any path. But they're still on a spiritual path, but they're asleep on the path. The second group of humans is those on the spiritual path. Wise decision. Wise decision. Because we learn everything the easy way or the hard way. The hard way is for those who are asleep. The easy way or easier way would be for people on the path. It means, I'm turned on to something. I think I'm going to start working and I'm going to start taking more responsibility. I think I'm going to work on my addictions. See, that's smart because then life's tests come more easily, more smoothly, less edge. They don't last as long, even though it might seem like they do. Some people would even say, I started having more tests when I got on the spiritual path. They were always there. You were just too drunk to see them because you weren't on the path yet that involved your getting healthy and responsible. They were always there. But when you turn on the light, stuff starts becoming contrasted. See, right now, there's a shadow of me on this wall, but the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. The more you bring light into your life, the more things will start to look contrasted. And when you're asking about things like relationships or patience, even if you blend those two topics together, they're connected. And working on, you think it's a relationship you're working on. It's actually only ever you that you're working on. Well, I'm trying to become more patient with my partner. You're actually trying to develop more patience, period. Your partners, your parents, whomever else, they just play roles. That's all it is. The Divine Mother helps us materialize all of our tests, which is to say, God essentially is behind all of our tests, not forcing the tests, simply supporting us with developing our belief systems. Is this one working for you? No, it's a limiting belief system. God's going to say, well, don't you think it's about time to let go of limiting belief systems? I think you're right. Exit a person, heartbreak, and we go, God, what happened? Well, you told me you wanted to let go of limiting belief systems. Yes, now bring them back. Well, no, because they're one of them. Somebody that only likes you once in a while. Somebody that bargains the love. Codependent relationship. So we start seeing things peel away when we get on the path. Quite amazing, quite beautiful, but it doesn't feel that way. So there's another path though. There's the sleeping humans, the waking humans. And then there's, you could say, awake. And awake is referring to people that are not just on the spiritual path. People that are sleeping are living horizontally, literally sleeping and figuratively sleeping. They have no interest. Does it make them bad? I only used one word. They're afraid. Even if they don't look afraid, if they're not on the spiritual path, there's a reason. And it isn't because they're inept, they're incompetent, they can't do it, they're too low IQ. No reasons. It may look like they've never heard about the spiritual path. Well, my parents, they come from the old school, they don't know about this. Doesn't matter, it's fear. If they weren't afraid, they would manifest hearing about it. Okay, simple. And if they don't get it in this lifetime, they're coming back and they'll get it introduced to them in another lifetime. It's all going to be okay at the end of the day. Now, sleeping humans, waking humans. But you can be on the spiritual path. That's the second level. Spiritual path, non-spiritual path down here, spiritual path here. You can be on the spiritual path and still be horizontal. How does that look? It looks like you're just reading and studying everything and getting nowhere. Oh, this is really interesting. Oh, wait, no, that's interesting. Ooh, look, shiny stuff. Like you're just totally spiritual ADHD. Like, look, something else that's really cool. Have you read this book? You would never find that if you looked at my life, just this lifetime alone. Never was I tangential. Never was I like, hello, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to talk about this because it's the only cool thing in the world. And then next week, no, throw that out. I got a new one. I wouldn't want to hear a teacher like that because if you threw away last week's teaching, how do I know you're not throwing this week's away? How do I know what to believe with you? Right? So it's a little tangential. Is it bad? No, it's better that you're on the path than not. But there's another level. The other level is called ascension. Ascension means I've got down a new level of commitment to my path. I don't just read. Everything I read, every meditation, every vision, I pull together to my center and it fuels me to go up, not sideways, up. There are books that we've all read that took us sideways. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, ooh, look at that one. And it's like going to the nurseries for plants. Ooh, look. Oh, wait. Just another cool thing and another cool thing. But do you just grab stuff or do you allow it to build a masterpiece? that will perfectly accent that. I have this statue of Buddha and another statue in the other part of my yard of Mother Mary, let's say. Some flowers or plants are going to really resonate with that, some more with that, and not the other way around. Or do you just tell a landscaper, hi, just pick me up some shrubs, throw them in anywhere? That's what a lot of people on the spiritual path do. What would you like to achieve on the spiritual path? Oh, I don't know. I just kind of like saying I'm on the spiritual path. If you don't know where you're going, then it doesn't matter what you read or do, because it's just horizontal. And today, whatever you're into, you'll be over it tomorrow and into something else. And I'm telling you, your people around you, whoever they might be, at work or family, home, they're watching you. Even if they make fun of what you're doing, I'm telling you, they're watching you. There's a part of them, it might be a sleeping part, an unconscious part, but there's a part of them watching you because they're looking for answers to life. And when you demonstrate changes, they're digging that. They're seeing it in you. There's people that knew me in high school that say to this day, whenever I've connected with the very few people from back then, they say, you've always been into this, right? They can tell. Do I think they were watching at the time consciously? No. Usually they were very unconscious. But, literally and figuratively. But people are watching us. When you're in the grocery store and something happens in line or whatever, you drop something, you broke it, you're feeling kind of embarrassed, I'm telling you, people are watching you going, whatever you do, I'm learning from this. Flip out and blame someone else, I'm downloading that. It's not just children that learn from us. Our actions, our behaviors, our styles, people are absorbing that. That doesn't mean that I'm telling you should walk around really hyper vigilant and paranoid about, I can't do anything wrong because everybody's watching. Just know, it is my intention to teach only love, for that is what we are. Will I always do it? Nope. Teach only love. Teach only love, and you're driving, and you're teaching only love. And then, there's somebody and you're like, you flip them off and, you have all your little mannerisms and hand mudras, you know what I mean? And that's oops, it's just oops. You slip and it'll happen. But if you're really on the spiritual path, not horizontally but vertically, you'll forgive yourself for slipping. If you're horizontally on the spiritual path, you'll start worrying about it and let it become more guilt that you'll have to go to your counselor to talk about, because that's horizontal. I do this, but I shouldn't do that. And I'm going to go over there to talk to them about what I shouldn't have done. See, it's just craziness, but it's better than sleeping. Ascension, I want to say though, has two parts. The third level I'm talking about here, up here, is ascension. There's non-spiritual path, there's spiritual path, there's ascension. One level of ascension. And ascension isn't just something like you think cosmic. Ascension, as we talked about last week, is any time that I am taken to another level of consciousness is a mini ascension. But ascension has two primary levels. One is that you can go up that ladder to the third level and actually become an ascended master. Kuthumi, Saint Germain, El Morya, and so on. So, there's several other people you might know or might not have heard of, but throughout history, that reached an attainment of ascended master. Buddha would be one. Ascended levels of mastery. But that you don't have to stop at that level. There's a second level of mastery, which is to completely attain Christ consciousness, or as they call in the far, far east, Krishna consciousness. But attaining Christ consciousness. So there's two levels of ascension. The first level is the one you've heard of most of the time. It still involves a human being becoming awakened. You can't be an ascended master and not see the joke of this world. You can't think this world has power over you and call yourself an ascended. Ascended master means I've ascended to a level of being able to see it from a bird's eye view. Ascended masters are more heart chakra than they are anything else in terms of chakras. It's like, I get it. Now I get it. That's why Buddha talks about being awake and other terminology like that. Ascended masters, they see through the illusion. So I'm awake. I get it now. You can be an ascended master and still come and choose to reincarnate, by the way, which is referred to as a bodhisattva. But reaching a level of ascended masters can happen to individuals or even groups. The Hopi say that the Anasazi ascended and that they were taken to another star system. That's why archaeologists say, don't listen to the Hopi. They don't know what they're saying. There's no such thing as other star systems. See, they make fun of it all. There's no such thing as beings in other star systems, right? But it's true. Why don't you just ask the indigenous people what happened and then make that your history books instead of telling them they're wrong and making up something that's comfortable for you? The Anasazi are said to have been taken by beings from the stars to another star system. You may or may not believe in this. You might thought, I thought I was going to a Sunday service. I'm hearing about star systems. Why did you create that? You know, it's not my fault. You ended up here. So, but it's true. The Anasazi, well, wait, if the Anasazi did, I wonder if the Unity of Sedona people can do it. Sure. We're not passing out any punch or anything. I'm talking about a little, okay. Can I have a little nip? Can we partly ascend? Guys, it's consciousness. It isn't by drinking the punch, literally or figuratively. And it isn't like someone can tell you, if only you do this, I promise you're going to ascend. If you're not in the ascension consciousness, then you're not. But imagine that a civilization known as the Anasazi were, as a collective, there enough to rise as a group. A group of people. Look at how hard it is to get two people to get along. A group of people living the consciousness so much that they were taken to another level somewhere else, another star system or dimension. This planet is going through an ascension process. But remember, there's two types. The first is fine. That's what the Anasazi did. That's what most, El Morya and Kutumi, most people that ascend reach ascension at the first level. The only way you can reach the second level of ascension is complete surrender to the Christ self. You don't actually have to be into Christ consciousness to reach the first level of ascension. You just have enough wisdom to know this is an illusion and it has no power over you. But all beings that have once ascended and became ascended masters, I promise you, they're all going to take the next step to the second level of ascension, back into Christ consciousness. But for now, they're waiting as a bridge between the other, Christ consciousness, and human beings. So they're playing the role as a bridge for the time being. So we have a problem, and that is some people on that middle group, the spiritual path but horizontal, sometimes they prefer to stay where they're at. They prefer to become, for lack of a better word, complacent. But that's not an accident. I'm saying that that's fear. There's fear at the first level to wake up at all, but even the second group, which applies to many of us watching and here this program, we're still experiencing some fear. How do we know? Because we haven't yet made a commitment to Christ consciousness. We're only making a commitment to reading cool books once in a while, meditating now and then. As long as you have your yoga mat rolled up in the corner and almost never using it, you think you're safe. I put it out every day, and I do. 20 minutes of asanas, great. When you're doing the asanas, what are you thinking about? Are you just posing? Because yoga means to yoke yourself to God. Are you doing your postures while yoking yourself to God? I said this as a talk once. I was asked to speak at a yoga convention. And I was talking to them about the origins of yoga. The origins, the word, yoke, yoga, yoke yourself to God. Like the way you would yoke a horse with, the lines. Yoke yourself, tie yourself to God. Do you know that this one lady stood up? This has nothing to do with yoga. Why are you bringing up God? I'm like, wow. Wow. And to get offended at the idea of bringing God into yoga. And these are, all the yoga teachers and so forth. To me, it's very sad. So easy. So people are so quick and they find it so easy to edge God out. The acronym for ego. Edging God out. But is that really taking you where you want to be? Where do you want to be after all this? I want to be better this or that. No problem. Then you go from sleeping to being on the spiritual path. Perfect. Horizontally. There's going to come a moment, and the planet is getting hit with this, where the door is being knocked on so that people will go vertical to the third level, which is, it's time for me to understand ascension. My ascension. It's not a theory. It's not something we might hear about or think about once in a while, talk about once in a while. It's happening all around the planet. And you'll find like quotes that Jesus made 2,000 years ago, references along these lines that, or even in the Old Testament. There's a story of the Israelites going through the desert. And there's this point where God wants to give them fresh, sweet manna. But God actually lets them finish their own tasteless, valueless manna. Why? It's like, if I give you this, you're going to mix it up. Why don't you go ahead and get past your opinions of relationships, and then I'll show you a new one. Why don't you go ahead. If you think you can manifest prosperity, you go ahead. When you're done with yourself, then call on me. I have something new for you. Well, yeah, but I'll take a little of what you've got, God, and I'm going to mix it with what I've got. See, that's a control freak. So God was telling the Israelites, you go ahead and finish your tasteless foods. Finish your tasteless relationships. Finish your tasteless jobs. But if you still think they're not tasteless, you won't give them up. And if you don't give them up, you won't make room for the new sweet manna from heaven. You want gifts from God? You want to ascend? You've got to let go of everything in you that is not very ascended. I want to ascend, but there's 5 people I really hate. All of those are anchors keeping you from ascending. So do you want to ascend? Those are counteractive, mutually exclusive. Jesus makes references like this. You can't really follow me if you're still valuing your family members. I come as a sword, all those kinds of statements he makes. He's not saying that to be hurtful. He's actually wisely saying, if you want to attain this level of consciousness, but you still have other things you value, you can't do it. And we made religion out of that too, to where people shame themselves, for anything, like cravings, mystics. Oh, cravings are bad. They'll send you to hell. And fundamental religions, every one of them, from east to west, make these stories up about displeasing God. It isn't God that's displeased. It's your ascension you're holding up, and that's all. You're just in the way of yourself, whatever the issues might be. Well, I don't have any dark issues, but I love my cat. Really? How do you know your cat's not already ascended in here? You're the one it's waiting for. And you're like, oh, I can't ascend. I might lose, my cat. My cat might need me. Oh, God, humans. So, it's just so bizarre. Value nothing. That doesn't mean don't have a cat. Don't have a garden. Don't make things more important in terms of prioritizing. First and foremost is my ascension to God. You don't have to take it to the level of mystics of the old days where, the abstinence from everything. That's the old way, old belief systems on how to become enlightened. Well, let's see. If enlightenment is here and earthly stuff is there, those are mutually exclusive. I need to not be into anything of the earth. And so you take all kinds of vows of poverty and chastity and so on. All right? That word none, it comes from renunciate. All right? Renouncing everything. I'm not going to like anything. You need to love everything. Well, addicts love their heroin. No, we're not talking about that kind of love. We're talking about holding your center, objectively loving everything for what it really is. Oh, he had to throw that in there. Yes, for what it really is. I really love sunsets, and they're not even really there. It's a hologram. You know what I love most about a sunset is that it reflects my beauty. So I can appreciate a sunset, breathe it in, not get attached to it because it's all right here. Oh, I really love my cat. You know what I love about the cat? It could die tomorrow and I still feel its presence and I still love it. That'll never change. That's what real love looks like. Relationship, as one of the questions that was asked, is not about the binding to. It's about the sharing with. It's not about compensatory. It's about holding your own presence and shining your light so bright that someone else says, you know, I dig being around you because your light and warmth, like what does light give us? Warmth and illumination. This is really helpful. We cut down on attacks, we cut down on neediness, and we work on ourselves and bring a new self to the relationship. So, in the book of Revelation, there's something along these lines. Woe to women in the end days who are with child and or feeding a child. On a literal level, what that means is things are going to get so terrible in this world that it'll be a dangerous place to have children. Are you hearing me so far? That's the literal interpretation, yes? Here's what he's also saying. In the end days, those of you with attachments that you're feeding are going to suffer. Not women breastfeeding babies, people in the end days that have attachments that they're feeding. Look for the symbolic meaning, and that's what you're hearing. Do you want to ascend in consciousness? And I'm not talking about like some group that says, oh, we're ascending. It's consciousness. And this isn't something I'm selling someone. You know, for just $19.99, you can ascend with Michael right now. It's not like something you can sell. Remember Earl Scheib? For only $19.99, you can paint any car. So we'll ascend any person for only $19.95. That's not how this works. There are people that aren't in any spiritual center that are ascending because they're choosing God as their priority of life. And they might be the only one living in their area. But they're caring for others. They're praying for others. There are monks in caves somewhere doing it, but there are also people in war trenches that are pulling it off. Because it's in here, it's in consciousness. How much do you love? Well, a soldier can't be loving, they're in war. They can. They can actually wish the best for everybody involved. They can actually hope for peace instead of war. Anybody can get it, but it is a personal choice. And we are entering those end days described in the book of Revelation. Woe to you who are with child and feeding children. Yes, woe to you. You know what it means though now. Woe to you that have attachments that you're still feeding. It's got to go. It's not something I'm warning like in a negative, heavy way. It's good news. All of our attachments that we're used to feeding, investing our hearts, chakra, breasts, okay, investing our hearts into, feeding our heart center into something of this world, it's going to kill you later. It's going to kill you to try to cut away from your addictions. So practice it now. Start just allowing, not just by your effort. Because there's, again, two kinds of ascension. One is by your effort. The people that became ascended masters mostly did so through their effort. How? Cutting away addictions, cutting away stuff of this world, praying and meditating. They became so pure that they could ascend. Okay? The second level of ascension isn't by your efforts. It's actually God reaching down and drawing you up into higher consciousness. But that is actually more rare. But it's actually where everybody's going. Everyone is going to that final level of ascension at some point. But it can't be done while we're feeding our old addictions or attachments. So that concept, even the concept of let go, let God, people kind of make a mundane meaning out of that. There's no limit to what that could mean. Let go, let your problems, your opinions of yourself, judgments, everything. Learning to say, I don't know. That's what let go, let God means. It means I don't know. Hey, what do you think about that new neighbor? I don't know. Well, what do you mean? Haven't you seen them? They mow their lawns on Sunday. I've lived in some areas where you're not allowed to do any yard work. It's against the religion of the people that lived in the area. And there were enough of them that they could control the Chamber of Commerce and all that, the government in the area. City council, that's the word, right? They could control that. So no yard work and all that. It's kind of amazing. That means if you work 6 days a week, you don't have that seventh day to clean up your yard. But they don't allow your yard to look like hell either. Because they're afraid of going to hell. You know, they don't want your house looking like it, right? No advertisement bulletin boards at your place. So that's not how you get there. It's, you know, there's things we do by our efforts. Live a good life. Be a good person. Be healthy. Let addictions fall away. But the other level is God reaching down and drawing you upwards, which is the higher of the two. One level of ascension is our purging and cleansing out our old self and arising to a new level, ascended level of consciousness. That's all you have to do. Don't worry about the second one. No, Michael, I can't not think about it. I want that second one. How do I get that one? You don't. It isn't selected by you. It isn't chosen. As to when and where, Jesus even said, when will this happen? When all the great things? He says, no one knows but the Father. Because it isn't for you to know when your final ascension is going to happen. And it will not be by your efforts. And it will not be by eating organic. That's not what guarantees your ascension. I promise you that. If you find out I was wrong, blame me when you get to the other side. Say, but Michael said, they're going to go, well, then you're good to go. All right? Just blame me. That's not what's going to do it. It isn't by your celibacy, chastity, and so on. It is not. You won't have a clue as to what next thing should I do to be able to get that. You can't think about it because there's no thinking allowed in that final ascension. Do all your work and know that the first level of ascension is quite enough. Get there, just even there. Even just get partway there. Just get on the spiritual path if you're not. Horizontally. But at some point, all the horizontal studies, let them become vertical to take you somewhere else. And instead of calling it the first level of ascension, think of it as you're committing now to this. You're not studying it. You see the difference? You're committing to it. This is how I live through and through, high and low. That's enough. Just get that much done if possible. This isn't where I have to talk about sleeping humans waking up. There's lots of centers that are at that level. Scare tactics even. You better wake up or else. Let's assume we got that one down. But in the spiritual studies, the one we're talking about is, how do I take that and take that vertically? How do I take my studies? It's commitment. That I don't just read, I read things and bring them together into my inner knowledge of everything being congruent. I don't just listen to music, I listen to music that is congruent. I don't just have friends, everything congruent. And it's a beautiful way to live. And that's why Jesus used that phrase, when you see me, you see the Father. What he was saying is, it's congruent. It's not like I talk peace and then act hate. You see? He was able to say, when you see me, you see the Father. Well, we can all say that, but it's not true. We can all say it. Yeah, when you see me, yeah, man, this is the Father. This is as good as it gets, man. Father, image of God. And then it's like just snoring and sleeping through life again. It doesn't mean we're bad for being incongruent. All I'm telling you is it means lessons will be coming soon. Because if you know something but don't live it, you're living in conflict. You're going to feel a contrast and you will pay the price. Not God doing it. We will attract lessons that say, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're talking this, but you're doing that. Oh, leave me alone. Oh, really? Okay. Your higher self will then create things that'll kind of drive the whole message home. So, one of the things that's changing, as I'm going to start drawing to a close, is that we, as a race of people, we are in the ascension process. We absolutely are. People can still choose to remain asleep. They can still choose to remain horizontal. But all that means is the fire gets turned up. Those who try to resist changes when they know they should make the changes. Like you can say, well, I have an addiction and I know it and it caused me to get a bad notice on my file at work today. Is that not enough for you? Oh, now I got a DUI. Is that not enough? What else do you need? Oh, now the family left me and they call it hitting bottom. But why do you have to make bottom something worse than today's bottom? Just get it. Just say, you know what, today, this is enough. Even hearing about a friend reaching bottom and going through hell, it should be enough to go, wait, thank you for mirroring that lesson to me. Sorry about hiring you for that. Germs. It's just consciousness in this world. The worst pandemic, you heard me say 3 years ago, is fear. So the human race is moving right and moving left based on the seasons, based on whatever else somebody says. Hey, did you hear? Oh, the economy's bad. Really? There's some farmer out there milking cows going, really? It's weird. I still have milk and food. And they're talking about, someone not having. It doesn't make sense. Those are seemingly oddballs that don't go with the program. So the ego has an old version, and what I'm saying to you is the Holy Spirit is coming in and starting to cut us off from each other. Cut our cords off of each other so that she can bring in spiritual oneness instead of the ego's version of it. For that to happen, as she's cutting things away, what's starting to happen is instead of, hey, how you doing? Well, it's allergy season. Oh, yeah, me too. And we're all having allergy season. Great. Now what's happening is, how you doing? It's the weirdest thing. My right leg stopped working yesterday. Really? I've never heard of that. But that's odd because I can't see out of my left eye. All these individual issues are starting to show up, which is why you had a pandemic that nobody knows all the symptoms of. Somebody says, oh man, I had that COVID thing and I had a worst headache. Somebody else going, really? I didn't have a headache at all. How come it's not so obvious? How come it's not as predictable as the old days? I'm saying to you, because the Holy Spirit is cutting the cords of ego that bound us all together to where we do things the same. Does that make sense? The bad news, which is actually good news, but it looks bad, is that we're individualizing things now. I have these bizarre things going on that you don't understand. Some of them will overlap, but people are starting to experience their own individual things. People are starting to have feelings that nobody else is having quite the same. Doubts, fears. The world's going insane. But one reason for the insanity is it was already insane. And everybody was so insane they didn't realize they're insane. Now we're waking up because she's cutting all these bizarre cords the contracts where we were agreeing to live in ignorance about the whole thing. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And we could get away with it because we had a collective agreement of hysteria. We were in a trance, under a hypnotic trance, to not know anything. Pretend we knew. Well, I wonder, hold on, let me check. Science says, okay, that does it. Or, who else you got to trust is the government. We're from the government. You can trust us. We're here to help. And then you find out they killed some of their own presidents. They made deals with the mafia. Like, you go, well, wait, who can I trust? God's like, can't force us. It's just like, hello. No. Science. Government, religion. I know they'll pull through for me. And then you find out, they're being paid by the government to tell you certain things that aren't, it's like crazy. So if I'm now susceptible, if I'm a participant, recipient of this, Michael, yes, we're now going to break you out of the trance of life on earth. This means you will now wake up and you will not be able to live under the hypnosis of government, religion, and, so on, science being your God anymore. You're going to have a new Trinity. The divine Trinity of God consciousness. But that means God is going to guide you now. The ancient Israelites, they were like, well, God, could you give us a person to lead us? God goes, well, why don't you just let me do it? No. We want a person. God's like, wow. How strange is that, right? They insisted on having a human king. This is the typical humans. It seems too much for us to just be divinely and directly connected to God. And some of you go, well, no, that's not true for me. It's true in all of us. The ego in all of us is terrified at us reconnecting with God. The ego is science, religion, and government manifested. Those three systems that tell you you're not allowed to have direct connection. Ascension is more of a direct connection. But I'm sorry to tell you, you start ascending in consciousness and you no longer believe the things of this world. And then when somebody says, everybody should be worried, really? Because I don't feel worried. And you got to watch out. And this and this and this. It's trying to pull you back into the trance. And all you have to do is bite the apple. All you have to do is taste of the fruit of knowledge, taste of the fruit of fear, and they'll suck you in again. So, to thine own divine self be true. So you say to yourself today, instead of on the spiritual path horizontally, I'm going to go vertical, which we've done a talk just on the concept of going vertical. You can go back and watch. Yeah, they're free on my YouTube and all that. But I'm going to go vertical here. Instead of this, God is my source. Well, you hear there's a financial thing. In God, there's no debt. You better watch out. There's a pandemic. In God, there's no sickness. And you can even get sick but not care because you're centered in God. It doesn't mean stuff won't happen in your life or in the world, but you are different inside because ascension is not making you immune to being here. It makes you immune to the effects of being here. You're still here, but you're immune to the effects. It's like, I seem to be okay more often. And the concept you also asked about, twin flame. Without going into a full teaching on that concept, the ultimate concept of twin flame is your Christ self. Your own connection to Christ self. It can never be with anything outside because there isn't anything outside. Well, what if the outside person is a blonde? What if they're nice? I didn't say unless. There isn't. This is a hologram. So people, you can name them new things, twin flame or soulmate, child of yours, or name anything you want. It doesn't change that this whole world's a hologram and that my ultimate concept of relationship is my relationship that I am one with everyone, everything. I'm part of God and I am very holy. And I just found myself. Now I know who I am and I need to nurture that. It's you come out of a desert and you have a sip of water. Take your time, but a little more. You need to be replenished. You need to be hydrated. And it's the same spiritually. We're all caught up in a certain craziness. Time to hydrate and keep it going in that direction. Don't say, now that I've had a sip, I'll hit the desert again. Once you find the oasis, soak it in. Let it feed you so you're ready for any journey out there in the deserts. You're totally plugged into God and you take it with you. You fill your canteen, you're prepared to go back into the world, just not being of the world. All that making sense? All right, I think I answered all the things you guys had me write down. As best we could in blending them all, that is. Which one? Oh, well, yeah. Forgiveness, that's the whole key. For you to go to a place of, and I think I said this much, but for you to go to a place of ascension, you inevitably have to forgive all the parts of you that are not ascended yet. Practicing forgiveness means you're putting love to action. You're not talking it. If you're not capable, and it isn't forgiving, it'll start off with forgiving others for what they've done to you. You need to do that step for sure. But then you'll migrate to another level of, wait a minute, why were they in my life? I've forgiven 100 people now. Wow, that was a lot. But why were they in my life? Because I have to forgive myself for thinking I needed those kinds of tests from those people. But I didn't do anything wrong. I was just an innocent victim. You should forgive yourself for thinking you were an innocent victim. Forgiveness is not the small word that people think it is. Oh yeah, forgiveness. Oh, I forgive you. La-di-da. Sign of the cross. Now it's done for sure. It's a process. And it goes from forgiving others. Gradually you'll find your conversations about others going more here. Forgiving yourself. How did I end up there? And I got to forgive my patterns, my issues, my whatever they happen to be. And then there'll be a point when you realize this is a hologram, there's nothing left to forgive. What am I going to forgive, a hologram? That's like, I need to forgive TV show characters. They're just characters. What do you got to forgive them for? Oh no, there was this really bad one. I got to forgive Bela Lugosi because he scared me when I was a kid. He was an actor on TV, Maybe forgive yourself for thinking you could be scared or whatever. But everybody's just all the world's a stage and everybody's playing their part. The parts we hired them to play. That doesn't mean I'm saying in the cold sense that you made people be bad. They are whatever they are. They were whatever they were. Our job, though, is to retire them from the roles we chose to let them into our lives to play. Okay? That said, please, a few centering breaths. Setting aside all the stuff of the world. Today's meditation being very simple, which we sometimes include in other meditations, but today's just what did you hear that can take you vertically? What did you hear that you already knew or didn't know horizontally, but can now draw into your center and become fuel that takes you higher? Does it just become, is there anything I said that you were allowed to leave in one ear and out the other? Instead of that, pause and choose power. Choose empowerment. Now wait a minute. I didn't just hear this. I like that. I got that. Own it. Draw it into your center. What did you hear? Draw it into your center. And one of the easiest ways to draw it to your center and let it become fuel is imagine yourself applying anything I shared today. It's now yours, but now see yourself applying it. Oh, I like that he said this, and I like that he said that. Stop. It's yours. How do you apply it? I'm going to now do this. I'm now believing that. See yourself as already changed, and you've turned it into fuel that takes you higher. See and own yourself at a new level of consciousness. Leaving today's service, whether you're in this room or elsewhere, you leave the service having ascended to a new level. Let something of your old beliefs die today. Even if it's a little intimidating, just, if this rang true, then just let that thing die, the old belief. Try it. You can always hire it back into your life if you need, but you probably won't. Just try it. Trust. Leaving an empty space inside that is filled with that new. And lastly, you see yourself applying it, but see the people in your life being appreciative that you are different. That they have that new something in you that's brought into their lives. See that. See the smile, the effect on people's faces, at work, on the road, your clients, whomever it might be. They are going to be positively affected by my rising to a new level. And then the only thing left is to actually go out and live it. Feel that deep appreciation for all of this. And relax with the knowing that all is well. And so it is. Take a moment to breathe, integrate. Breathe, integrate. Yeah, gradually come back to the room, but breathe. Integrate. Remember, one level of ascension is in your hands. The highest level is not. See how your ego deals with that. The part of you that wants to be in control of everything. Let it be exciting that God will, at exactly the right moment, reach down, take your soul, and lift it into the Christ self. The alchemical wedding. Okay? It's beautiful. In the meantime, I'm choosing to live the Christ life even while on earth. How I think, how I speak, whatever it is I do. But watch for that word congruence, please. We've done a whole talk just even on that. You check it out if you like. Congruence, okay? Everything in alignment, as best you can. Don't make it a religion. Don't make it a shame yourself if you slip. Just do your best and enjoy the ride. Enjoy that, man, this is great. It's like a Unity of Sedona. How we do things and how there's a building of something and a leaving you with, what did you get from this? It makes you own it. That's all thought through in a sense. It was all inspired, but this is how it can be. You have any experience. You can even end a marriage and say, but what could I take with me as having learned? And it takes you higher instead of, it's all horrible. See, that's not risen consciousness. That's crucifixion, not ascension, nor even resurrection. Please stand for our closing prayer. Centering, gratitude. Join us for our afternoon workshop. We'll be doing it here in person or online. All about divine connection. And it's going to be very, very, very powerful. Really understand and know and feel the words. The light of God surrounds us. We are the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love of God. The power of God protects us. We are the power of God. And the presence of God watches over us. We are the presence of God. Wherever we go, God is. I am. We are. And so it is. Perfectly so. Peace be with all of you. Take good care.